I like the monkey story, and that's a story that can indicate insatiable desires. I was in Malaysia last month, and I saw coconut trees, but I didn't see any monkeys. And probably that's the old way of getting monkeys, because nowadays I don't think they need monkeys to get the coconuts. They have technology good enough to catch it without the coconuts. My first question, I have two questions in here. The first question is, how was your trip to Malaysia? Who are your audience? Oh, yeah, I just came back from Malaysia. Last month I was in Malaysia. I was invited 1 year ago by the Malaysian Buddhist Society Association to go to 5 cities to give lectures 1 year ago, and I finished just last month. We went to Butterworth, Penang, Ipoh, Kuala Lumpur, and Malacca. 5 cities in about 10 days. In 10 days, so I think I gave total lectures of about 7 to 8. And who are the audience? I have a total audience of about 2,200 in total. And I have different experiences in different cities. And it's a long story. And I have also some mystical experiences that I encountered when I was in Malacca. And that will have to be shared later with you, and just to keep you in suspense so that you come for the next time. Anyway, so we have a lot of experiences in Malaysia. And when we first landed in Penang, P-E-N-A-N-G, Penang. Penang it's a city. It's a very large city. Penang is a city. That has the highest number of Buddhist congregation in whole of Malaysia. In other words, most of the Buddhist associations, the temples, all concentrated more or less in Penang. And Penang is a very old city. I still remember 100 years ago, reviewing the history of Malaysia, most of the Chinese first went to Penang. And it's like a Chinese city, speaking a few languages, of course. The Malaysians, they are languages talented. They speak English, they speak Malay, they speak Mandarin or Chinese, and they speak Cantonese, and somehow they also speak Chaozhouhua, a lot of dialects. They speak a lot of dialects. And so we landed in Penang, and I still remember when I first landed in Penang, there was at noontime, and the few monks received us and took us to a vegetarian restaurant. And I think that was one of the best restaurants in Penang, because we're eating stuff like flowers of bamboo canes and something like that, and they're really delicious. And very old traditional vegetarian shop. And then the monk who was the leader of the group told us that in Penang we don't have a lot of Buddhists. Most of the people in here are Muslims. They don't expect a large audience, he said. He said, I have been a teacher for 15 years around here, and every time when I taught, there are about 7 or 8. I thought it's 700 or 800, but he said 7 or 8. In the Chinese language, it's 700人，我以为是 700 or 800. Actually, it's 7 or 8 people, and sometimes. If the weather is not nice, you may have 15. Well, how come the weather is not nice? They have nowhere else to go. So they just go to the lectures. And so he did not want to disappoint me, because don't expect a huge audience. And also your first trip is in Butterworth. The distance between Butterworth and Penang is just about a bridge away. That's one of the longest bridge connecting Penang City and Butterworth. Butterworth it's a smaller city named after a governor, a British governor at that time, and his name is Butterworth. And I think he was responsible for planning to build that bridge. And Butterworth is a center for shipping and logistics, shipping logistics, and it's a quiet city, but it's very clean. It's a clean city, and the traffic on the bridge is always jammed. So it took us about an hour and a half or 2 hours to drive that bridge. And if there's no traffic jam, it would be just about 20 minutes. But then it took an hour and a half. And so on that night, we tested the sound systems and everything, and we expect to see what happened, how many people will show up. And then suddenly a small group show up, and that group was from Singapore. 3 people. They actually fly from Singapore and coming to Butterworth. And finally, I have an audience of about 260 people. 260 people show up. And after the talk, the president of the society of the Buddhist Society said, "Oh, that was really good. That was really good. We've never had that before. We have no such, a number of audience before." But anyway. And when we're in Penang, we visit ancient temples. And one day in Ipoh, I-P-O-H, Ipoh. And Ipoh is just like Canada. Quiet, peaceful, fresh air, bungalows. And what is interesting to me, they speak Cantonese. Everybody speaks Cantonese in Ipoh. So I don't have to speak in Putonghua. I don't even have to speak in English. So it will be free for me. That's my mother tongue. So I can just talk and talk. And about 500 people, more than 500 people show up. And they have open public eateries that are really attractive. And a huge place, it's open, but only, with the cover. And they have, because Ipoh, it's at the foot of mountainous areas. So they have the best water system, because water flows from the lakes in the mountain. And also they have fresh air in the mountain. And the food is fantastic. As good as the good food in Hong Kong. Really good. And when I was in Ipoh, I encountered something uncanny, inscrutable, because I was looking for rocks. I was trying to get rocks for a rock garden. I planned to build a rock garden in there, on the farm. And I was trying to get some good rocks from China. And before I went to Malaysia, I inquired about it. And one rock of 2 tons cost about 30,000 renminbi. Very expensive. Very, very expensive. So when I was in Ipoh, and there was a participant who used to be a deputy minister of foreign affairs or something, who was sitting by my side, in a vegetarian restaurant. And I was talking about, because Ipoh was at the foot of a mountain, I thought there must be a lot of rocks and landscaping rocks and stones. And I said, "I'm looking for rocks." "Oh, you're looking for rocks? Oh, that's good. And here we're famous for rocks. And you want to talk to the president of our rock society?" "Oh," I said, "of course. I want to talk to anybody who is in the rock society." So he just called, and 15 minutes later, the president of the rock society of Ipoh showed up, sitting by the side of the minister. We're talking, and then he said, "I have a whole galaxy of rocks, a lot of rocks in my garden. So do you want to take a look?" I said, "Of course I want to take a look." So we went over there and see his rocks garden. He had hundreds of rocks. And we saw every rock, and the highest rock is about 8 feet. with different shapes. And I said, I'm more interested in this part. This is really good rocks. And I said, I'm really interested in it. I said, okay, then those are yours. I said, oh, it's free. It's free, but then you have to pay for the transportation. I said, of course. So, but that's not enough. They say, okay, we have a vice president of the Rock Society. He had his rocks for sale. I don't sell my rocks. I only give rocks to those people I'm interested in talking. So you're interested in talking to me, definitely, right? Yes, okay, so I got those rocks. So I got all those rocks from the president, and then we went to the vice president's collection of rocks. And we got about 20 of these rocks. And of course, they charge for it, but a reasonable price. So right now, I think people in Ipoh are arranging for the shipment of those rocks. And I said it's not easy because you have to spray it and make sure that all the soil is washed off from the rocks. And also you have to put crates around it to make sure that it doesn't break when you ship it, when you hoist it up onto the container. So a lot of work to be done. Unfortunately, we have very good volunteers, so they're helping out. And so we will have a good collection of rocks for the rock gardens in the future, and that's what we plan to do in there, So there's a lot more to say about this trip. And maybe we'll leave it for the next time because we need to go home, right? It's lunchtime. Yeah. The next question is in Putonghua. It all says that, well, why did we come to this world? If I'm in a dream, how much of the dream I can control and how much of the dream that I cannot control? Can I choose my own life? And if I'm awakened from the dream, what would I be? How does it look like when I'm awakened from the dream? Those are interesting questions that require one semester to answer. How can we give an answer for that? But then we said, okay, why do we come to this world? Why do we get reborn into this world? We come to this world bringing with us. We have no choice. Our karma brought us to this world. What is karma? Karma is an accumulation of your behavior, your speech, and your thought. That you have been accumulating in previous lives to this life. And we can, if you want to divine or to explain what karma is, it's like an energy. We have been cultivating energy from previous lives. If we look at the whole world, it's like at least we have what we call, it's a four-dimensional world, we call it. We live in a four-dimensional world. And of course, in some sutras, we talk about 12 dimensions. What are these 4 dimensions? 4 dimensions is the width, the length, and the breadth. The width, the length, and the breadth. 3 dimensions. The width, the length, and the breadth is what? It's space, right? Everything is space. We have the space have a length, the width, and the breadth. So it's space. We're living in space. And how about the 4th dimension? Time. We're also living in time. And what is time? Time itself is 3-dimensional. The past, the present, and the future. So we're living in this 4 dimensions. On the one side, we have space. On the other side, we have time. And we're living in it. And we're living in it. Why do we get involved in the 4-dimensional world? Because the behavior, the karmic energy that we have accumulated brought us here, not God. It's not God's energy. It's your own energy. You think about it. If you have been brought here by God or created by God, why do you have to suffer? if you are a real father of your children, you wouldn't have created a bad child and then test the child and send him to hell or send him to heaven. You would have created a perfect child. Right? So you accumulated your karma from previous life because of cause and effect. And the nature of this karma is either good, bad, not ugly, good, bad, and neutral. So if you have a lot of bad karma, which means that you cultivate a lot of bad causes, and this life you'll be suffering because of what you have done in the past. Good, vice versa, good karma will bring you have good life. And we're in between. Most of us, we're in between. We did some good things and some bad things, and that's the reason why sometimes we suffer. And some people are richer than the others, some people are more healthier than the others, some people look handsome, some people look ugly. We're all different because our karmic energy, everybody is different. And that's why we come to this world. We brought our karmic energy into this world. We cannot control it. And it says, if we're living in a dream, how much of the dream we can control and how much of this dream we cannot control? Half and half. The part that you cannot control is the part that you have already done. How can you redo yesterday's done? What has been done, how can you redo it? You can commit not to do it again, but you cannot change yesterday's happening. So you have to suffer as a result of yesterday's deeds, then you have to suffer. You cannot control yesterday. Then you have to suffer. So why do you cry over yesterday's bad deeds? You can learn not to commit it again, but there's no point in crying it, because crying it does not mean that you have to go through it. You don't have to go through it. So we cannot change what's been done, but we can change for the future. We can improve now. So the future is in your hands. The present is in your hands. So there's a part that we can control and the parts we cannot control. What happened when we awaken from a dream? And I said, I'm not awakened yet. How can I tell you? I'm still in my dream, but I know I'm in a dream. You may not know you're in a dream. That's the reason why Socrates, not Descartes, Socrates said, Apollo said Socrates is the most intelligent person because he knows he's ignorant. And Socrates is going about a market I'm looking for people. Who are these people? People who know they're ignorant. People who know that they're in a dream. But people do not know that they're in a dream. Socrates is the wisest because he knows he's in a dream. For people who knows they're in a dream, they are the wiser people because they want to get awakened from a dream. But those who are in a dream, you never know that you are in a dream. You're still looking for that dream of what? That dream of looking for wealth, sexual misconduct, relationships, material gains, selfishness, depression, anxiety, fear. You are in a dream. It is time that we should seek for awakening, seeking for that awakening. Don't dream anymore. We are a dreamer. Imagine that we're not a dreamer. That song imagines that everybody is a dreamer. You see, did you hear that song called Imagine? Imagine that I'm not alone. I'm not the only dreamer, but we are all the dreamer.